Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Visine. Blast off, blast off, blast off, blast off. Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Visine. Blast off, blast off, blast off.
Blast off on another VIP episode of Hero Podcast. That's right, Hero Paranormal Podcast. My name is Ryan, the original outlaw of the airwaves, broadcasting just south of Area 51 at the base of La Madre Mountain. And today we're bringing you the inevitable. That's right, we are treading on thin ice today, guys. And why is it thin ice? Well, we're going to discuss my friend Jeremy Corbell's recent leak, along with George Knapp's, of Pentagon UFOs, UAPs, if you will. Because everyone has an opinion, and that's why it is thin ice. Are they drones? Are they aliens? Are they interdimensional? Are they even technology the way we understand technology? They can actively jam our radar and defense systems. What do I personally think they are? Well, you're going to find out. And it isn't just what I think and what I'm discussing. Because today we are discussing these with none other than Erica Lukes from UFO Classified. Erica and I don't always see eye to eye, but we always play nice. At least in my opinion. You decide. I really enjoy what Erica brings to the table. She always has viewpoints that open my mind to different ideas, thinking, and even theories at times. One thing is for sure. These UFOs, or UAPs, whatever you want to call them, show advancements in technology that no nation on Earth has ever displayed. They can actively jam radar and defense systems, manipulate nuclear weapons systems. So, do we believe the Pentagon when we receive leaks? Some say no. I say heck yes. I will take anything I can get when it comes to information, no matter who it comes from. And who says all UFOs are anything in particular? George and Jeremy are not claiming that these are time-traveling reptilians here to take over our planet. No, they are claiming these craft are legitimately unidentified. One thing is for sure. They are showing advancements in technology, and the video we're discussing and images are all over the internet. This leak is huge. The video is of a pyramid UFO near a Navy destroyer. The footage was leaked to Jeremy Corbell. He exclusively obtained the video, and the Pentagon confirmed Jeremy was able to obtain and release the unclassified images and footage along with mentor George Knapp. That's my understanding. And I could be wrong. Is this the slow drip disclosure everyone is used to? Heck no. Heck no. I love this kind of disclosure. No matter what. I mean, the thing is flying in the sky and it's a pyramid. How cool is that? Not a bad thing, right? Well, many disagree, and their reasons are sound. But the UAP phenomenon is gaining traction. We will get into this and so much more. And before we do, let me do a little, shameless self-promotion. If you haven't gone to heroparanormal.com, please do. Hit that donate button that you first see, and for the price of a cup of coffee a month, you're in the winner's circle. That's that. Moving on. Erica Lukes, welcome to the Hero Paranormal Podcast.
There, at least it's spring, Have you been?
Gosh, I can't complain. It seems like every time we talk, it seems like it's been too long, but lately things are so messed up. It's just like, dang, everybody's just surviving, or maybe I'm just speaking for myself.
No, I think everybody I know is going through a time, it's just like, it's a weird time for everybody. And I think it'll take a while to get over, everything that happened with COVID and is still happening and all of that. But, we'll just take it as it comes, I guess.
Amen for that. And today, we're kind of treading on thin ice as usual. Yourself and I, Erica, we're discussing our mutual friend, Jeremy Corbell's recent leak, along with George Knapp, I guess, of the Pentagon UFOs, because everyone has an opinion about this. Are they drones? Are they aliens? Are they interdimensional? Are they even technology the way we understand technology? Everybody has an opinion. And I know that you and I are going to kind of deep dive into that.
Yeah. Thanks for having me here. It's definitely created quite the buzz and an international buzz, to say the least. And it is interesting to see how many people are popping up on the radar with new YouTube channels and all sorts of things taking place. So there's a big push by someone or a group of people to get specific information out. Whether it's true or not is a different story.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, we're talking about the Pyramid UFO near a Navy destroyer. The footage was leaked to Jeremy Corbell. He exclusively obtained the video. The Pentagon confirmed Jeremy was able to obtain and release unclassified images and footage along with his mentor, George Knapp. And so the Pentagon, they've confirmed that this was filmed by the Navy. And, trustworthy as far as releasing this information. But let's get into the thin ice aspect, which is, according to them, these things can actively jam our radar and defense systems. And what do I personally think they are? Well, we'll get into that. But it isn't just, it isn't just myself. I think, today this is crazy, Erica. These things don't always play nice, apparently. What do you think?
What I think that this is man-made technology. I think it is either from us or from an adversary, and I think that it's a definite attempt to cover this up for a multitude of reasons. So I think all of this is very peculiar, but we do know when we look at specific types of technologies that we have developed and are deploying, this very well could be something along those lines. And to me, that would make much more sense than saying that this is from another planet.
Freaky. I like it. I will take it. And anything I can get when it comes to this type of information, I say, heck yes. Do we always believe the Pentagon when we receive leaks? Some say no matter who it comes from. But, I say all UFOs, and that's the thing. I think George and Jeremy are not claiming that these are time-traveling reptilians here to take over our planet. They're claiming that these craft are legitimately unidentified. And one thing is for sure, these UFOs or UAPs show advancements in technology that so far no nation on Earth has displayed. The video is, all over the internet. The leak is huge. The video is of a Pyramid UFO near a Navy destroyer, and the footage appears to be blinking, as if worried about being hit by something.
And you would definitely, again, you would think if there is an advanced technology that they wouldn't look remarkably like navigation lights or different things like that. You think that they would be, if they were advanced enough to travel here from somewhere else, that they would be a little more stealth than what we're seeing.
Man, maybe it's just I'm greedy with my tax dollars, but is this the slow drip disclosure everybody is used to? That's the good thing, though, is I guess heck no, right? I kind of love this raw and rugged kind of disclosure. No matter what the thing is flying in the sky, it's fun. It's become mainstream. And now the UAP phenomenon is going to gain traction, which is not a bad thing, right?
It's good to have an opportunity to try to use this, leverage this to get good information out. But again, when you've got so much disinformation that is coming forward and a lot of people don't have the time to really dig into things, then they're just going to believe some of this stuff on the periphery. And I think that can be a little dangerous in and of the fact that people are not getting accurate information. They're not looking at the history of the subject and see that this is their typical patterns that take place with the subject and with the intelligence community, and different games and tactics that are deployed decade after decade. And so it's my hope that even with all of this barrage of publicity and YouTube channels and all of this stuff, that there will be good information. People will be thinking critically about some of the things that are being put forward.
Yes, and you couldn't be more correct about the YouTube channels coming out, and everyone is jumping on the bandwagon of this thing. The first time I saw it, I was super stoked. And I don't know if maybe that's just the weird, wow, I like anything different factor in me, but I was just happy to see something so strange and magnificent go mainstream. But then, by the same token, I thought to myself, okay, they didn't muster the muster stations. Nobody was actively engaging this phenomenon. Ooh, I lost you. It just seemed to be pretty much like that, like zero communication for a moment. And somebody pulled out their cell phone, I guess, or I don't know. On the other hand, I have heard some leaks that this is actually... there's a different kind of system that actually videotaped this, an electro-optic sensor. Anyway, I don't know. But the bottom line is, I'm not going to argue what kind of how it was photographed. That's way above my pay grade. But what I will say is it definitely gathered the attention of the mainstream, and that's a whole phenomena unto itself, right, Erica?
It is, but I will say again, looking back historically, I mean, you've always had, back in the 50s, 60s. I mean, this subject always could and did grab headlines. I have, as you know, because you've been to it, you haven't been lately, but one of the biggest archives in the country now. And in that, I have newspaper clippings and periodicals from all over the world, and just all of the things that just go back. And it's like, yes, it's always been there, and it almost seems that back in the day, maybe the 50s and 60s, that the subject was a little bit more respectable instead of having it so filled full of people that are promoting conspiracy theories and a lot of misinformation. It was much more pure back in the day because I think there was more control over the content, if that makes sense.
Yes. And who is controlling the content always is a big question too. That's why this kind of disclosure, no matter what it is, everybody prefers the slow drip disclosure, but that's just kind of like the wheels are greased and they're going along the road. It's just occasionally that you get these quote unquote, for lack of a better word, explosions in the field of, whoa, what is this in the water? And it sends ripples throughout where people are actually engaging so much that they're starting YouTube channels.
Yeah, that's been a fascinating thing to see. There's definitely a push by a certain group of people, shall we say, to get different spokespeople out there promoting different versions of the same theme.
And, on one token, we have a very well-respected, as far as journalism is concerned, George Knapp, over 30 years, a mentor to Jeremy Corbell, who is kind of, the one thing I do appreciate is he has that shock. He gets everybody's attention. I don't care who they are. It's just his demeanor. And the first time I met him, I was shocked. I was just like, this is not what I expected, which was maybe exactly what I should have expected. And that's what's so cool about him. But on the same token, he's been attacked a lot. People are calling him a CIA asset, which I argue we're all CIA assets if you live in this country. But there's a lot of other, interesting intricacies that are, as far as investigative journalism, of course, everybody wants to know where this came from. I argue that it's interesting that the Pentagon chimed in.
It is, but I guess when you look at what the Pentagon is saying, again, you've got Susan Gough, the Pentagon spokesperson. I mean, she's saying, yes, this is unidentified, but I mean, when you hear her historically too, she's not, coming out and saying these are UFOs. It's not, people are reading a lot more into, I believe, into her statements than should be read into them, and so people automatically jump to the fact that this, it's an unknown, that must mean it's extraterrestrial. And we've got to kind of get a handle on that one.
Right. And that is the out there theory. Well, and, I don't want to dispel any theory because then again, this is a very vast subject and you don't want to, take people's experiences, encounters, etc., and demean them. But at the same time, it's definitely something that is gaining traction that historically in our community was not. I have neighbors who know I am kind of that. All of a sudden, I'm the cool guy. Like they're coming over and inviting me to stuff. And hey, man, what do you think about the pyramid? And I'm just like, this is so weird. These are neighbors, and they're talking to me about something that I'm fairly knowledgeable about, and they're asking me what I think. And I love any disclosure because we need it, but we need to get into exactly what people think because the mainstream is not us, Erica.
I never would have noticed.
Right?
Yes, we are quite, unique in that regard. We have passions that most people don't have. That is for sure. But you're right. It is fun to have different people that you would never expect just kind of say, hey, wait a minute, I saw this, here, and then, that opens up a dialogue. I think that's cool. And that gives us a chance to share some of our experiences about whatever we've encountered and also the research we've done.
Yeah. Like, I had the best man at my wedding. He called me up and the first things out of his mouth were confirmed by the Pentagon, filmed by the Navy. I was wrong, man. And I'm like, what the crap?
That is awesome. Well, it's definitely, people are paying attention. And, again, you mentioned disclosure and the dripping of disclosure, and then, we're having this big announcement, which I have a feeling will turn out not to be so big, but that's typically the way it goes. But I think it's a fascinating time to be studying the subject, and it's very interesting to me to see, again, I like to watch the people involved and the different, ways that they're spinning specific things. And I've been really kind of digging into the coast to coast aspect and some of the people they've supported and promoted on their shows over the years, and some of their leanings, and even digging into Harry Reid's background is certainly bringing up a lot of Utah connections, and then also just a lot of interesting connections in general. So this is a big subject, especially when you go into the big deep dive like you and I have done.
It is deeper than deep. It's more of an abyss than deep. It's like I love it. It's cool.
It's something.
Right?
I hear you. No, I mean, it definitely is. I like, sometimes I just wish that I could go back to the days when I first started this and just kind of have that sense of wonder and awe and the kind of believing everything that is being put forward, because that was such a fun place to be in. And now I know a little bit better, and it's just like, and you and I've had these conversations, many times before. It's like, dang.
Right.
Could that really be what's going on? not what we wanted.
No, and this is a very strange issue. I think I want to take some quotes here. One thing's for sure, these UFOs and these UAPs are showing advancements in technology that no nation on Earth has ever displayed, and that's a quote from Jeremy. The other is that they can actively jam our radar and defense systems, manipulate nuclear weapons, and according to Jeremy, it doesn't matter where UFOs or UAPs come from. That's an epistemological issue, which I could barely say, but people can deal with. And is this, is this a question of what these things are? Or is it a question of, maybe there's a reason they're actively engaging over our and other military installations, and that is because they can.
And that's a frightening thought because, again, I go back to the fact that this is, even though Jeremy says that this is technology that we're not capable of. I mean, I'm not sure if he's looked at, delved into other types of technologies, especially, we've got to throw into account that, there are technologies that we have, that we don't, it isn't public. Right. I mean, you know how this goes. It's like we're learning things 20 years behind what is being tested in our skies or under the water, on land and things. And so I think we have to take that into account. And is it more likely, like I said, that these are drone swarms from a foreign country that are following, our battleships and flying over nuclear installations and shutting things down and different things like that? Would that be more of a something that a foreign adversary would want to do, or we would want to be learning how to do ourselves?
What better way to pump the brakes? And I hate to say it, but replace the fuel filter and everything else. The visual checks on these areas are vital. And I'm jumping in. This is probably going to hurt me in the pocketbook come tax time, but it's so true. The way these things fly in, like they own the place, and then fly out like they own the place, it's almost as if they own the place. And I hope, maybe I'm just too patriotic that, when people ask me what I think, and I'm usually wrong, just for the record, but I hope, maybe it's just I'm an optimist. I hope that it's just above everybody's pay grade.
I hope so too. I mean, and if we, I don't know. There's so many questions, and I would definitely say that I don't know what. I mean, I don't know what I would say because there's so much to say. It's like, where do you start? But I do. Yeah, I think that there are things that we just don't know about, things that are taking place that, all of us, that we don't need to know, we can't know for national security and things. And if stories are put out to discourage, or to kind of offer a red herring, then that's the way it goes. But it's, I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that this is man-made technology?
God, I hope so. And either that, or I hope that it is that horrible word I just said. I didn't mean that in vain. It's got to be one of the two, in my opinion. If you're an optimist, this is either my assessment of how the government is handling this is dangerous to make assumptions. If this is gathered by electro-optic and sensor data that I have no idea, and this is usually how it works, the general civilian has no idea what these people are talking about, and if OSAP and ATIP are any idea, when we still have, let's find out more, but these vehicles are cutting edge, and it's increasing in frequency. Sightings and encounters are increasing, and, according to many, depending on, there's a fence, there's a line in the sand. And you have to pick I say aim for the fence, because holy crap, the theories are out there, right? What are your thoughts on that?
I think you're right. The theories are out there, and it is really unnerving. I think, if it's extraterrestrial, it's unnerving. If it's or exciting, whatever you want to look at it, or if it's an adversary, it's incredibly concerning. But, hopefully we're testing things like that. And we do know that, we test on the first, before you deploy something, that you're testing on your own, groups. And so you have to test things in the field. And so could this be a test? There would be people that would not need to know what's going on, and things. And I don't know. I'm just definitely leaning away from the extraterrestrial thing. And again, when people are citing anonymous sources, typically that's never good at the end of the day.
And I want to, something else that's scary, just before we move on to the next subject, is not only is this increasing in frequency sightings and encounters and everything that you just mentioned, but according to Corbell, this is, and trust me when I say this guy can keep his mouth shut. Unlike myself, he can keep it shut. And this drop is the tip of the spear. So there's a lot more coming. So, we better hope we know what this is at some level, or holy hell.
And I would hope that if there was a big disclosure coming, that you would be getting that straight from the government, that you wouldn't be getting it through secondhand sources, like Jeremy and co. This is a serious enough issue that this needs to be coming from our government, if it is in fact extraterrestrial.
And that brings up, I love this kind of discussion because as soon as you see something flying in the sky, the average civilian thinks little green men, watch your behind, and don't get beamed up.
Well, I guess it depends on who you ask.
Well, it depends. It does depend. And I hate to say that those things don't exist, but they do. They do. I'm not saying they don't exist on some plane of existence. And time is on our side for this one, because even if you talk like the dimensional aspects, which is mainstream now, you can talk your reason around this, and it's safe and sound to argue that would just be one little tiny slice of the pie, and that there would be a variety of other slices of the pie that are also actively engaged in the phenomenon in their own way, shape, and form. And I think that's kind of what we're discussing here, because this seems to be technology mimicking phenomenon, not phenomenon mimicking technology, in my personal opinion. But hey, what do I know? I'm just speaking as a fly fishing guide and a jeweler, and that's as far as watching something that I don't know anything about and making a personal assessment. That's as far as I go. Above and beyond that, I can mow a decent lawn. So,
I think, the mimicry is a really interesting thing. And we know that, there have been different studies that have been done over the years, decades, about people and their responses to UFOs, or how it would change their religious viewpoints and different things. And so we've gone in and kind of created and used these psychological profiles and things. And could that be? And we know when you're looking at psychological warfare, what you would do in specific places, and what they have done is take a group of people and their belief systems, and they've used that as kind of almost a weapon to gain control over the population. And so could that be, something, if you're mimicking something, or if you've seeded an idea into the public, that this kind of, hey, it's a UFO, that type of belief is going to grow. I think that does happen. And so there, like I said, there's so many layers to this. And I think, when you and I have looked into Skinwalker Ranch and the surrounding areas, I think that's one of those prime places where you do have some sort of psychological operation taking place, and ideas have been seeded, and then specific people, I think specific technologies can be tested, and people are going to jump to, well, that was a UFO, and so they're not going to look any further into it, and it's a great cover. So could this again be the case? We just, we will see how things roll out.
It really depends on who you talk to. And I don't claim to know what, quote unquote, they are. I only have my optimistic assumptions. And I know that they are cutting edge. Don't kill the messenger here. But what's scarier, them being extra dimensional, non-human aircraft or Russian and or Chinese drones?
Well, I would say it's scarier that it would. I mean, for me, potentially that it could be an adversary.
Right.
But
right.
I think I'm the type of person that would like to think that if there is an intelligence here, I don't necessarily run to the thought that it's a threat, even though we should be aware of that. But if you look at the work of people like Jacques Vallée and people that have studied things, and looked at folklore and different things, there are allegedly interactions taking place that could be from different dimensions, different things. And so are they necessarily, a threat, or is this something that is just coexisting?
Right. Are we just seeing some 747 from like the Costanza world, or a reality slightly different from our own, but just for moments or a glimpse thereof? And if so, why is this around nuclear installations, which again is going to reverse the target? But why is this around nuclear installations and military facilities of all nations? It appears.
Well, I think there could be two different, thoughts. Obviously, the one is that there is an advanced civilization here monitoring what we're doing so we don't blow ourselves up. I think that's the common thought in the UFO world. And then there's the fact that these could be foreign adversaries monitoring our capabilities, or it could be us trying to protect our capabilities.
Okay. And I'm going to go out on a limb on this one, Erica, because people are going to want to go out on these crazy limbs. And it's not going to be the crazy reptilian. Not that I don't agree with some, like, oh, yes, there is the reptilian brain, and we could get into that discussion. However, and bloodlines, but I'm not going to do that. This is more about, in my opinion, where you're going. It's a dimensionality or the mimicry of a dimensionality for military purposes, or an assailant. I love that word, an assailant of some sort, that we were not ready for. What are we doing?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it is all very curious. And I think, just to see the way people react to some of these things that are being put forward is interesting in and of itself. So who knows? And it's, again, for me personally, because I've had my own personal experiences, I know you as well, and I think the more I look to the outside to find answers, the less connected I am with what I really feel happened, if that makes sense. And so
total.
I don't know, I want to go off on a little tangent here and just encourage people when they have experiences to not turn to YouTube to try to get answers.
YouTube University is it's kind of like, what's that, Dr. MD? Like it gives you just enough rope to hang yourself, maybe. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I don't want to get down this path, but some are arguing that this is, oh my gosh, it's a triangle, it's a pyramid. The symbolism through the disclosure, no matter how you see it, this is going to lead to, that these craft were seen by everybody from, the pharaohs through the Bible, the USA now, the Romans, the Judeans, it just goes on and on, the Greeks. And are we dealing? And because this comes up, believe it or not, Erica, this comes up 99.9999% of the time with gods with a small g. And what is a small g?
I don't know. Tell me.
I don't know either. These are the things that keep me up at night. This is why I ask these questions, because you hear it all the time. Are we dealing with gods with a small g? You start looking at the word G, governments. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe that's just a lucky guess. What do I personally think they are? I'm just going to fire out of the barrel, and it isn't just me. I've talked to people who are veterans and soldiers and many government types, because I think they're a good way to gauge my analysis of the footage. I just kind of said, hey, what would you do? And, engage is what they would say, engage. What the F is that? So from an unclassified and absolutely civilian perspective, that eye to an eye mentality that the military usually has in defense of its own capabilities, I would say that they're actively jammed in some way. Their radar or maybe their defense systems were jammed or everything else. I don't know. So maybe it was a test. I just don't know.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I want to just go back to something that Dave Beatty, if you follow him, I really like Dave a lot. He's been on my show several times, but he did some great work about the USS Kidd and the drone swarms that took place there, and he posing the question about the pyramids, and then he said that he had spoken to different witnesses, and they said that they were not pyramids, and that they're thinking that it might be an optical illusion or a glare. And so, again, it's like to jump to that, the pyramid, and where did the pyramid come from? I think Jeremy Corbell was the first person to start using that and really pushing that. And so, again, I just caution people to, not go down, because you can go down all sorts of roads that aren't necessarily factual with this. As much fun as it is.
It's so much fun. It is a blast, and it's so much fun because everybody is involved, no matter who they are, what they are. Then when they see a quote-unquote pyramid flying in the sky, it's fun, it's mainstream, and it's UAP phenomenon. But at first, I saw the illusion, in my opinion, of what appeared to be a pyramid transposing itself or randomly flying through, like its axis had been manipulated. It was just spinning. That's what I first saw. My mind first saw that. And then under further analysis, under larger and larger screens, I went from a cell phone to a laptop to like my, whatever 65-inch screen is the highest I went. But I started to notice that it does look like a series of lights, 3 that are flashing in unison and create maybe some kind of it looks like it's all flashing at the same time, but it appears to be, in my opinion, LED. And maybe they're just, you know what I mean? Like maybe the light was just on and the flashing was through as this so often happens, the actual filming of the object. Much like you film like modern headlights and it flashes randomly and you're like, whoa, what's that? And that's just through your cell phone. So I don't even know the optics we're dealing with. Yeah, no,
there's lots of questions, but to me, when you start looking at it, it definitely looks a little bit, doesn't look as out of this world as, you could be told that it is. And so you just have to, like you do, put things through the paces and then call in people who are, experts in things like this and have them weigh in and then make a determination based on not only that, but our witnesses coming forward, using their names. Why wouldn't they use their names? It seems kind of interesting to me in this regard that they wouldn't be, but who knows?
It could be a variety of reasons. We don't know, and that's the dangerous part of this. I don't want to make assumptions because I did hear electro-optic and censored data. So was this filmed by somebody with his cell phone and this thing was flashing, or was this filmed by a weapons defense system that mustered up enough technology to just catch a few, enough of it to figure out what it is? Was it flashing? Was it not? We're not getting a lot of info. I've reached out, and it's hard because I know he's super busy, and a lot of this stuff you don't want to kill the messenger, and we don't know who the messenger is. We don't know what or who filmed this.
But if that was taken with something other than a cell phone camera or a camera, as you say, then there would be a huge process that this would have to go through. To me, it would be very unlikely in a situation like this that they would be releasing that footage.
So it's
and if
Blinken.
They did release that footage, then you would think that the person that released it, there would be an investigation about that. So
right. And as far as I can tell, it is unclassified, which is mind-blowing. And I could be wrong. Jeremy, don't kill me, but don't kill the messenger on this one. I'll take the same defense he does. This, if they're... Okay. This technology is cool. It's very cool. I doubt it's manned. And the fact that it can actively jam, possibly, by implication, our radar and defense systems, that, at least initially, if my assumption is correct, and it's just one of those, hey, dude, later on they're like, hey, you shouldn't have pulled out your cell phone, but it's kind of a cool flex at a cool time when maybe these other countries are getting too close. It's kind of what we did with the moon, and it's sort of I hate to say it. Yeah, but it's it's building that big obelisk and saying, look, mine's bigger than yours. Can you do this? And I'm hoping it's that, because if it's not that, these are very quite interdimensional.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, too, you have to ask if somebody is filming, like I said, and I think this is an important point, if somebody's filming something like this and it is unclassified, then that would mean maybe it's not as big a deal as we think, maybe just throwing that out there. Or, I mean, if people are leaking things and potentially putting our troops in our country in danger, then that should be something, that it should be addressed as well. I think that there's some serious questions that all of this raise, but nobody ever seems to talk about things like that.
They are, because it is. And anyway, there's a good portion of it that's legitimately required because they're taking a good portion of our funds, if possibly, it's the assumption that I'm hoping to God it is, they're taking a great portion of our funds creating these things. And I understand the flex, if it's the flex and it's for everybody's safety. However, if this is a breach of security defense systems, and I'm with you that we're discussing this, and we're getting, well, just imagine if this was coming through. The avenue is interesting. It makes me wonder, is the Pentagon, like you said, is it not as big a deal as we think it is? Are they, in fact, adversarial drones? And this is just kind of like a joke, like, yeah, we caught you on our cell phones. That's kind of funny. But I don't know. I don't know how to look at this. This is either a really big deal, or it is because it's gathered mainstream opinion. But is this a big deal? Or I don't know. There's so many different ideas, thinking, and even theories at times about these things. And, bringing to the table viewpoints that at least open my mind to, well, maybe this is an adversary.
I would think, given, like I say, some of the technologies that they're testing, it very well could be. And so I think we just don't know. And I mean, what better way, it's a great cover story if it, to use the UFO thing so we're not creating a huge panic. But it's, I think it's all very curious. And again, like I said, if there is going to be a disclosure about this, I would much prefer it came from somebody who was a high-ranking official instead of somebody who is making a living off the UFO entertainment aspect of things.
Well, and just being peripheral to this all, as you know, I can only talk from a personal and peripheral aspect, and it's actually coincidentally and synchronistically the same aspect through which I know this individual. But just being a civilian and having any and all touch with the strangeness, the high strangeness of the Uinta Basin. So when you're in the Uinta Basin, you get this high strangeness feeling sometimes if you're in certain areas. And I know you've felt it, I've felt it. Well, lo and behold, if you stick around and you keep sniffing around, you find that there are deeper levels to this, that you start worrying about things like your safety. And these are things that as a United States civilian, an American, we should not have to worry about. We should be able to sniff around at our own leisure and disclosure and disclose whatever we sniff. But that's, unfortunately, just speaking from myself and being a very peripheral player to all of this, I understand that there's deeper parts to this that, like you said, don't apply to me. Like there's a point where I have to quit sniffing, or there could be, for lack of a better word, consequences. Is that a safe word?
Well, I mean, I definitely, the UFO community are people that sniff around and get into, find out maybe too much. People have been visited by people saying, "Hey, knock it off. You got to maybe pull back a little bit here and things." And that is, it's because there are things that we don't have the capacity to know. And as for our own safety, that's probably just fine. If you know what I mean, I mean, it's and as much as I would like to say we should have a completely open and transparent, which I think we should be transparent with things, but when it comes to national security, I don't know if that is something that is, we should be, we can't be transparent when it comes to that. You can't show all your hands to an adversary.
That's right, because we don't know what we're dealing with. And I've talked with people, like I said, peripherally, that are like, yeah, I've seen technology that other nations have that are freaking really cool. And that's as far as I can go with that. Now, does that mean that they're just really cool? Because that's all I heard, and the issue personally I have, and I think most citizens of the United States do have, is we just assume that we are at the top of the heap and that nothing can get even close to us because we just really enjoy the bread and circus at the table. We, it's America, and then, bleep, yeah. And it's just, this is it, for lack of a better word, this has become the new Pledge of Allegiance. And is this reality?
Right. I mean, and I think that we can see by some of the advancements that, other countries are making, it's I don't know if I would like to think that we are on top of the heap. Let's pray on that one, because I'm like you. I'm proud to be from America. I love my country, and I appreciate the men and women who sacrifice, make sacrifices for our safety and well-being and democracy and things, and so. But it is definitely, we have to be aware that we aren't always the top, and there's so much, like I said, going on behind the scenes. Even just some of the the hacking and things that we've seen, and the use of social media to promote propaganda from different countries has been very interesting, especially how that has also affected the UFO world.
Oh yeah. The propaganda and the drone aspect, the Russians are onto it. And I hate I probably shouldn't say that for YouTube, but they're onto it, and it's so cool. They're so about remote viewing our technology that I follow pages that follow things like that. And it's like, what are either they're totally out of their minds, or the things that we are now considering drones, aliens, interdimensional, ET, etc., or legitimately unidentified, may have not ever been, in the words of others, technology that no nation on earth has ever displayed, but may in fact be just that, a display no nation on earth has ever displayed. And who is typically the forefront, leaker? Oops, what was that? An SR-72 Blackbird? Just kidding. And, it's reminiscent. And if that's the case, then everybody can cool their jets. But if not, then these are understandably technology we need to be worried about.
Right. And it's either way, but again, we've got to just, stay as grounded, I think, as we can, and to, ask the important questions and not believe things because we want to believe, or because there's, a specific spokesperson or people that are promoting things. And, like I think for me, I've found, because I do believe there's a genuine phenomenon, I think this is, it's fascinating, but I tend to turn away from, what is going on in America, because it's just so many red herrings going on, and I think that ends up distracting us, because we're sitting around arguing about, whether this was a triangle UFO, or what A, B, C, and D is, when potentially there are things going on in different areas, and we're not paying attention to that. So
I think that's,
you know what I mean?
Oh, I totally know what you mean. And once defense is involved, the discussion gets hairy. And I was just, when we say thank you for your service to, as you mentioned, the military men and women, we have no idea what they put up with. I have to kind of somewhat argue with my wife about vaccinations with our kids, for example. And not really arguments. We actually see pretty eye to eye. But at the same time, you consider, I think I was reading, it's like 100 compared to 72 required, 72 injections. I believe our military, let me see here. No, 191. I'm sorry. 181 or 191 different shots. And the majority of these, they don't know what they're for. And they just take them. Is it part of a test?
Yeah, that is definitely interesting, but
it makes you wonder, is it part of a test? Is it part of possible tests? Military men and women maybe succumb, and that's the thing you sign up for. It's kind of a tough thing to argue.
Well, and I think there are, people that genuinely, that they've realized this, and that is what they've agreed to do, and for the name of, like I said, our democracy and our country and
Amen.
Freedoms and things. And so that is really such an incredible thing to do as a human being.
It's pretty cool. It is pretty cool. And, but yeah, it's a lot bigger than a lot of people. 'Cause I talked to, just people that I know that were involved with, I don't know what I can say, but, some of the programs that they otherwise thought were just, I'll give you the generalization of this particular. They thought it was just a general, hey, I'm on a ship. I'm just out here cooking meals for all these soldiers who are watching for something. And this doesn't sound like a long list, and he went into, what's going on from the service department of an aspect of things. Come to find out, the entire thing was they were being tested on by and deployed upon by different, I'll just say, mediums. And this series of damage that took place to the mechanical parts of the ship, of the vehicle, and to the people on board was very real. Now, it took, most of the people have died that were on that ship, and this person just barely got a severance check. So it's one of those things that kind of pisses you off a little bit.
Well, we have seen some interesting things take place with regard to that and human testing, and so it's and Dugway, you know, as you and I both know, that there have been lots of interesting things over the decades, frightening things, in my opinion, over the decades that have taken place there with regards to testing on, you know, people. But yeah, there's lots of things to think about, and then, you know, I throw in some of this type of thing.
Now the Dugway,
too, which again, you know, like I said, up in the area of Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, who knows what would be going on up there?
Now, the Dugway thing, just to clarify, that was proven, correct? Like, beyond a reasonable doubt. Fascinating. I mean, just the fact that that was proven beyond a reasonable doubt is pretty huge, because if I'm assuming that this would be a subcontractor of some sort who thought they had free reign over not just the acreage they were leasing, but life in general within that acreage, that is a pretty big assumption.
Well, it's an interesting place, and I definitely, you know, encourage people to look at the history and some of the things that they've tested, and in fact, they're still doing open air testing in that area.
Come on,
at Dugway and things. So it's every once in a while you hear a little blurb about it, but again, you know, that's what that's an interesting topic. Dugway is definitely not a place I'd want to go hang out on the borders of, because you just don't know what you're being exposed to. But
it's a place to be honest, you know, in all fairness, I sadly took previous dates, and in retrospect, probably a really bad idea. That is an area that, yeah, we know for a fact there's fallout of, well, God knows what. And it's fascinating. You'll probably see something that you haven't seen before, but is there a consequence to that? And I think there may be something along the same lines to any area, that you might see something you may not otherwise see. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and I mean, we see, you know, with regard to Skinwalker Ranch, you know, we've got people that are allegedly being, you know, that are suffering radiation burns and severe injuries and things, and so definitely would not. I mean, I would, you know, rethink going up and spending a lot of time in that area, you know, as well too, from a safety aspect.
Yes, and I can't agree more. When people, arguably, I own it. I guess I'll just say it. I own an interest in a small sliver of the Uinta Basin, and when people want to go up for reasons that are paranormal, quote unquote, I make them sign something like a waiver of liability, and it seems drastic, but it really isn't, because anywhere you are in the Uinta Basin, if you are looking for something that shouldn't be there, you might just find it. Am I right?
Well, yeah, and I think, too, there's a lot of, you know, I mean, who knows what goes on with, you know, I mean, I think it is interesting to go to some of the cemeteries, you know, in the area, and to see that there are a lot of younger people passing away. We know that there was an article by Rolling Stone magazine a couple years ago about all the stillbirths that were seen in Vernal and different things, and so there might be things due to some of the industry in the area that could be affecting health and different things. But it is, you know, like with Skinwalker and them saying on the new series that there are high levels of radiation, dangerously high levels of radiation, and that definitely is a red flag, and you would hope that the right people have been informed and they've come in to do checks on that.
Yes. And I just don't even know. I'm getting too old. I don't know what I can and can't say anymore. And this is why I'm in the periphery forever, eternally. But I will say this. From my understanding, there's many people who just will not return to the Uinta Basin. And as I get older, I'm one of those people who returns less and less. It seems that there are physical and possibly, I don't even want to say the word, but there's consequences. And, is it worth it? It's really cool to see something that shouldn't be there. But when you have flying lights in the sky that are affecting, and I'm going out on a limb here, Erica, but from what you just disclosed, flying lights in the sky, I think the assumption are somehow affecting, stillbirths on the ground, at that saying, as above, so below.
I will say that it is interesting, and I always go to Norway, because I was lucky enough to go over to Hessdalen there, where they've conducted a 35 plus year study of anomalous light phenomenon, which this is the most studied area in the world, and it's been it's fascinating, and it's really cool to watch, to be right next to these scientists, the leading scientists from Europe, and they're very transparent about the data. They have a website where they're putting things forward constantly.
Yes, I agree.
And over there, nobody has been hurt. Nobody has had radiation burns. No one is getting sick and dying of cancer. And so why would that be? Why would people be getting so sick over here? And is that potentially something that would be more have a down-to-earth explanation?
Well, it is so hard to not go down these rabbit holes, but no matter what opinions are, when things flying in the sky are affecting things on the ground, that should be a really big red flag that this is important. And sadly, the majority of the population could care less. I mean, they see something flying in the sky, they say that's cool. Just crazy, for instance, middle of the day, I'm in a swimming pool with my mother-in-law, some other people, other family members, etc. And I see some stuff. I see like 3 lights in the sky, middle of the day. And so I'm like, okay, I got 7 people around me. I'm just going for it. So I point them out. I say, look at these. What do you think? And they're looking at them. And they're looking at them. And they're moving around and they're mixing around and they're in plain view. And then just as clearly as they were there, and I know you've seen things similar, they're gone. So I authentically believe in the authentic phenomena. But there's so many imposters and mimics, we may never know, especially with these drones and everything else, defense systems. I don't even know anymore. But Erica, let's get into where our listeners can keep track of you and UFO Classified, and at least in my opinion, have a pulse of what's going on in the broader spectrum of UFOs.
Yeah, thank you. I do a radio show every Friday night. I broadcast on Spreaker, and you can find it on iTunes and different places where you find podcasts. And it's UFO Classified. You can go to UFOclassified.com to learn more about the show, or ericalukes.com, and then you can find me sometimes on Twitter. And just need to get better about that. But but I'm always, I love this subject. I genuinely think there is something that we need to be researching and paying attention to, and we need to create a safe space where we're doing that. And like I said, it's just, please, look at all the information and don't be afraid to ask critical questions, because in this subject there is a need to have both feet on the ground, I think, because we've had so much disinformation and misinformation since the late 40s.
a lot of wild stuff, and we're talking about the same thing everyone's talking about. Definitely keep in touch with UFO Classified and Erica Lukes. Erica, it seems far too long every time we touch base, and I hope we touch base more often. Take care until next time.
You too. Thanks.
Erica Lukes, UFO Classified. You can't go wrong. She's attacking UFOs and UAPs in a way that no other woman is. Check it out. She's got quite the following, and she's not scared to ruffle a few feathers. Whether or not those feathers, who those feathers belong to, is beyond my pay grade. A question I really wanted to ask Erica is whether there was a spiritual component to all of this, but I didn't do it. I was a coward. And next time I will ask her, because it is a component of the puzzle that I think is very important, but I'm not exactly sure it is important to all those involved. So maybe I'm one of those crazies, but maybe it's a component that is important to me, and it is not an actual component. I don't know. Maybe I'm going out on a limb, but that's a question I wish I would have asked Erica. You definitely and legitimately should stay in touch with UFO Classified. It's pretty cool. And the video of the pyramid UFO leaked near a Navy destroyer. Definitely keep track of Jeremy Corbell. You can do that at Jeremy Corbell, Instagram, Facebook, etc. At Jeremy Corbell. You can also go to extraordinarybeliefs.com and you can see his stuff there. Until next time, keep your eyes to the skies, feet on the ground, but don't forget to take a look around.
Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Visine. Blast off, blast off, blast off, blast off. Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Visine. Blast off, blast off, blast off, blast off.